We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
I think the way our technologies are going, as we have cloud tools, as we integrate our personal lives, right? All of us, I mean, we have streaming service. How many of us live on utilizing some type of cloud service, from our office tools,
everybody.
to tools?
Yes.
We happen to be recording on a cloud service right now, right?
There are a lot of layers to this. It's almost too conceptual to follow, but I love it.
Hacking AV systems, creating the best work from home setup, and wrapping up CES 2024. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 647, recorded Friday, January 12th, 2024. Narrowing the pro and consumer gap. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the biggest stories of the week. First and foremost, my very dear friend from Southern California, Dr. Josiah Way from UCLA. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thank you so much, Tim. It's a pleasure to always be here with you.
Absolutely. And a young man I got to meet through a mutual friend, Kelly Perkins from the Farm AV. His name is Sean Murphy. He is also from the Farm AV. Welcome, sir.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So we went to CES this week. If you're not familiar with CES, when I say we, myself and Patrick Norton, one of our writers, head out to Vegas. Patrick has covered more CESs in the last 30 years than I care to count. I have more hair than he does, which may be a correlation. I don't know. But he's been to a lot of them, so I got to learn a lot from him. So thanks so much to him for bringing me along and teaching me the ropes of CES. So CES is Consumer Electronics Show put on by the CTA, the Consumer Technology Association, similar to how AVIXA puts on Infocom, right? So that's the Pro AV correlation there, kids. About 100,000 people was what they were shooting for, what the CTA was saying as of Friday afternoon when we're recording this. They do not have official numbers because technically the today or tomorrow is the last day of the show. But it's ginormous, right? It felt like 130,000 people. It felt like, orders of magnitude larger than Infocom and even ISC that Joe and I are both headed to in about a month, actually about 2-3 weeks. But it was huge. And understand, when you go to Infocom, there's in Vegas, typically it's like the center hall in the Las Vegas Convention Center and like the north or the west, right? 2 of those 3. CES is all 3 of those. The parking lot of the Las Vegas Convention Center, and the Venetian Conference Center, what used to be called the Sands Convention Center. And 4 dozen suites in the Venetian, and all the meeting rooms in the it is a big show. One of my favorite places to go to is a place called Eureka Park. It's where all the innovation, not all the innovation, but these are small little itty bitty, 5x5 booths where people that have a crazy idea, they go to CES and they're like, here's some stuff. We found some really, really interesting things. Look for some articles next week from both Patrick and I. 2 things really quickly about Eureka Park. One was a company that was allowing you to put in a PCI slot in your computer to augment and supercharge your AI creation. That was very interesting. The other one was the fact that the Department of Homeland Security was there. They were looking for innovators, right? They were looking for people to partner with. On the AV side, here's a couple of things that I want to point out. Number one, the overarching theme of this year's CES was AI. That was a no-brainer. We knew that going in. David Danto and I interviewed Steve Koenig from CTA about a month or so ago. He said the overarching thing is AI. You felt that, right? Both from the Venetian and over at the Las Vegas Convention Center, there was AI everywhere. Google had it. Kia had it. Everybody had some version of AI or something they were doing with AI. Cars, aplenty. LG had their own car. Sony, the partnership with Honda, right? So several things like that. On the commercial AV side, though, walking around the show floor with Patrick, who traditionally has done consumer electronics coverage in his career, but he's been inside the AV industry for about 2 years now, and he's walking around and he's going, this is really interesting. The consumer side is finally catching up with the commercial side. And he referenced two different things on that. One was the transparent LCDs. LG had one of the best demonstrations of that. Samsung had some, TCL had some. A lot of folks had transparent LEDs or LCDs, but we've been seeing those for about 3 or 4 years now at Infocom and ISE. The other one was things like the wall and direct view LED. Both, all the display manufacturers have some gorgeous displays, but we've seen those before. So Joe, I'm going to, hit you with a couple things, but one of the things, you've got AI, you've got really, really awesome displays that we've already kind of seen, and you had conferencing technology. Emerson, who's a overarching, ginormous electronics manufacturer, they had a self-contained conferencing unit, right? So you've got that there. When you look at the coverage of CES from The Verge and from Engadget and folks like that, what was the biggest things that you saw coming out of CES that's going to impact the users in corporate and higher education?
Yeah, this is the easiest question to answer because I think you just already named them all. So I appreciate that. The thing is about CES, and especially this year, I think compared to last year, everyone did have to jump on the AI bandwagon, but the difference is AI is actually developed now. Right, we're actually able to see it in our real lives. Right, when you have ChatGPT goes public, it's not that these didn't exist beforehand; they just went public. Right, and now we have technologies that are coming out in our consumer hands, that we can buy for our house or use in our daily lives, are now public. And so you're seeing that integration. And then when you take those, the technologies that we would see at a commercial AV show and you put them at a consumer show, it means that this merge, this gap is now narrowing. And when I look at CES, and what it means for me is because I have, 45,000 people aged 18 to 21 walking around my campus, right? And I have people who want to say, what is it I use in my daily life? And I want to use that in a classroom, right? Slightly different than a commercial, even though we are in the commercial integration side, different than a real commercial use. So I sit there and go, what's happening here is going to come to me and I have to have an answer for it within 2 years because I'm going to now be expected to support that. Right. And so now as we see this integration of displays, of smart home things that we can do in personalization with our phone, the things that we can do in office and work, I now have to go, okay, how can I bring that in? And I think, and I'm hoping, and it'll be interesting to take CES, and trust me, at some point I'm going to get to a point, a CES and ISE. And if I could pull those together, is there going to be a point where it's just technology is technology? We almost don't have a gap anymore, right? We've already seen it with ISE of, residential and commercial together. Now they're practically the same. Are we going to now start seeing that in consumer technology because we're now using this chip-based, right? We're doing these things cloud-based. These are software-based. These are technologies that are programming. So is the difference between commercial and residential, and residential and consumer really just the grade of plastic you're putting the thing in, right? Is that really going to be our difference?
Sean, same kind of question. What were some of the things that you saw coming out of Vegas that is going to have an impact on the commercial side? There
was one device in particular that kind of piqued my interest. It was called the Rabbit R1 Pocket AI Companion. And I think Joe kind of hit a good point, which is like, we're not that far off from AI just kind of running, our daily lives. There's already a push there has been for a while in commercial AV of building automation into AV systems. The user walks into the room and everything turns on and it routes to the right input, and they have camera tracking you and ceiling mics tracking you and basically like a seamless touchless experience. I don't see AI, far behind being integrated into those same spaces to where like it can learn, from patterns in a room and start, integrating that within an AV system to where, I program the AI and now the AI does the work. They use this one specific input a lot. That'll become the default, right? And that's maybe an interesting use case, but the fact that AI is already like in our scheduling software and in our hardware for all different types of devices in the home, I see it coming to commercial spaces like conference rooms and high impact, multi-use spaces.
Joe, you mentioned something there, that I want to circle back on for a second, and you talked about the gap between consumer and commercial, and there was a point in time. It's almost like a pendulum that there's a couple of years where, holy cow, it's the consumer electronics group, and they're driving the innovation, right? They're the ones who gave us the HDMI plug, and we can talk about whether or not that's good or bad. But there was a time when that was where the innovation was happening. That came back over here to the commercial side. Where are we at with that pendulum swing? Do you think it's commercial side that's really driving the innovation now, and finally it's getting back over it's coming into consumer?
I would actually say the pendulum is straight at the bottom.
Okay.
Right. I think that we are in a time of transition. And it's interesting because I think that, and we've seen it in the commercial side, right? Of that things have already been changing. The what an integrator is providing has changed. The development of end users being more empowered has changed, right? The industry as a business model has changed. And I think that what we're now seeing is the technology now moving up to it, because what was going to happen, and just kind of bringing this back around to the kind of the hyper personalization, the AI, the non-need for, to program something, then means that now high quality technologies can be brought to the average person easily, right? Think back a few years ago, we were having all these arguments in our industry. Well, which is better, configuration or programming? Which is better? You know what's better? Neither. Let the thing do what it needs to do and be smarter than us, right? And we're almost getting there.
This is Erin Marmoran of EdTech. The world of higher ed AV is growing rapidly. That's why each month we hear from the best and brightest from colleges and universities all over the U.S. Check out EdTech on AVNation.tv or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Yeah, we're getting very close. Next story comes to us from AV Magazine. This happened not in the States, but it's still an important thing to talk about. A cyber attack on Victoria's court audiovisual system has compromised sensitive legal recordings. Nobody on this call was involved. I'm just going to point that out. Court services at Victoria discovered on the 21st of December that hackers had infiltrated the network on the 1st of November, so almost 2 months, but I'm not going to point that out, accessing 7 weeks of video and audio from various courts. Chief Executive Louise Anderson revealed that while no financial or employee records were obtained, Supreme County magistrates and court proceedings may be in criminals' possession, quote unquote, including a children's court recording from October. She stated that the breach was confined, quote unquote, to stored network recordings. Ongoing January hearings will continue after isolating and disabling the affected system. Joe, start with you on this. How do we safeguard our AV systems?
How about having someone on staff whose sole role is taking security,
seriously,
right? That's going to be the first thing, right? I'm sure these systems were nice and secure when they were first done.
Are you though?
No, I'm not. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Okay. I'm giving them that it was written in the RFP and that's what was put in. But I hear that software and hardware have firmware upgrades and things like that and security patches that have to be applied.
It's a rumor somewhere, yes.
I know it's a rumor. And so obviously that's where a lot of these things happen, or just people who, obviously we know most cybersecurity attacks happen because of human error, not because of the actual network was hacked or the equipment was bad. So it's usually a human. I can see how if you've got, especially with recordings, people want easier access. I mean, we'll forget the fact that, courts are usually open in public, so they access something that's open in public.
Hang on for a second, though.
That's not the point.
That's not, because there are times where a
child's court.
Yeah, those are closed, at least in the States.
That's
right?
true.
I have no idea about Australia, but in the States, those are closed.
But yes.
But
the point is, you need people who take it seriously, right? And you need your cybersecurity teams, and that's exactly what we do. And in fact, I know there's this whole debate of what should go on a network, what shouldn't go on a network, and and all of that stuff. And my thought is I'm not even going to attempt to put something in until my security team and my infrastructure team gives me that stamp. Right. When I look at something, I send it to them first and let them. And if your product or your ecosystem doesn't live up, well, I'm not going to waste my time with the proof of concept then, because you need to make sure that first.
That's actually a really, really good point, and something that manufacturers should take note of is if it doesn't even pass the pen test, the penetration test, don't even, actually, quite frankly, don't even come to market anymore. Sean, I'm going to ask you a very dangerous question. I was talking to a very dear friend of mine who is a lot smarter than I am, especially on programming and security. His name is Mike, and he gave me the dangerous question. So I'm not throwing Mike under the bus because I'm the one asking it. Are we to the point where we should just say, forget this whole putting AV on the network and air gap the suckers, and that's 100% secure?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And again, Joe brought up a really good point. It's like, if your stuff just is not secure, don't even bother, right? And there are some manufacturers who up until very recently still used default passwords on all of their networked devices, right? And I think there's a push now more than ever to get that cybersecurity, nailed down, especially with the AV push to have everything be a networked endpoint, and it's all PoE, so it's just a single cat cable to a switch, right? But there are a lot of solutions out there that can be accomplished without integrating with a corporate network, especially with like Netgear making AV specific switches. You don't have to integrate now with the client's, corporate Cisco or something else, system, because there's this other solution out there. And I've really only programmed systems that go on a corporate network for very specific use cases. And those use cases are vetted out like way ahead of time to make sure that it's secure. And if it doesn't need to go on the network, I don't see a need to do that. Keep it air gapped, keep it isolated, and then you just don't have to worry necessarily about it.
So if you're not watching the video, Joe is vigorously shaking his head no. So, Mr. Way?
Yeah, I'm just here for the controversy, Tim. I'm just here for the controversy. See, I look at it completely differently, right? So I'm going to unpack this in two ways. One, the isolated network thing, our own thing, is a misnomer and it's a false. Because here's the thing, even if I have my own segregated AV network, all someone has to do is get on that one and they have access to everything else, right? We've all seen the porn that's going up on digital signage and all that. All you got to do is hack one of the boxes and you got access to all of them, right? Just the only difference is you aren't doing it remotely. You might be doing it on-prem. Right. So there's still management having to be done. So I think that we have to understand that it's not just, oh, well, if I segregate the net, then I'm safe. Well, no, that's not true, first off. Right. If the people can be on-prem. Now, second, I think the way our technologies are going, as we have cloud tools, as we integrate our personal lives, right? All of us, I mean, we have streaming service. How many of us live on utilizing some type of cloud service, from our office tools,
everybody
tools?
Yes.
We happen to be recording on a cloud service right now, right? And so the fact is, that's only going to become more part of our lives, and our customers are going to want to integrate it. So one of the things that we did at my former institution, we ran on the production network. Our entire 6,000 nodes of AV was on the same production network, because we could then integrate with all the learning tools across the campus. And I think that that's important now, because there are ways you can still segregate the content traffic, but the way things talk to each other, I think we want to be able to integrate with the other server tools that might exist, depending upon your, I'm speaking from higher ed point of view. We have tons of server tools, right? But every industry has their own things. And the more we can integrate those, the more we can provide a better service to our customers. So I am on let's bring it all together. Let's not worry about separating it, but let's have good practices for cybersecurity and security, and have people unpressed in order to understand how we can put those together.
The one thing I want to point out, Joe, is you made a good point there, is the fact that you're talking from a higher ed standpoint. Everybody knows we're AVNation's owned by CTI. We have access to some really smart people. Chief Technology Officer is a young man by the name Eric Schneider, right? And Eric's super, super smart. And about every 6 months, I will ping him because this question will come up, right? I'm like, Eric, how many customers, right? And I don't ask for numbers, and I don't ask for specifics, just roughly. It is virtually zero in the corporate space that puts it on the production network. Higher education, I'm finding out, though, is doing it. And that's what I find interesting, is because Joe's not, UCLA and USC is not USC is not the first one I've heard about. Several campuses around the country are putting it on the production network because the IT managers, I'm not putting words in your mouth, Joe, but the other ones have said, we've got the bandwidth, right? We've got some really, really kick butt servers, so why not, right? Let's transport that AV over IP, because you can put it in its own lane. It's not going to bleed over, and you do it right. The commercial side, the corporate side, they're still a bit nervous on both from sucking up all the bandwidth and the security side.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. I mean, again, you got to have managed switches. You got to have an IT team who can make sure the traffic goes where the traffic's going to go. Right there are other things to think about, and maybe that's what's holding AV industry back too. This is a skill set we don't hire and train. When we're first hiring the entry level to go and carry the ladder off the truck. Right, this is an entirely different skill set. And so, and one that we're going to have to hire and account for. And here's the thing, bringing the whole conversation full circle with AI and integration, it's only going to get more, right?
And it should be part of that training of green tech, right?
Yeah.
Security should be 100% part of that. Let's start with, as Sean said, change the password, right? From password. Final story comes to us from our AVNation, as well as one of our writers, new writers, Robert Heron, talking about upgrading your work from home setup with a quality monitor can boost productivity. When choosing a display, consider planned usage and room lighting, which was one thing I never considered because, well, my room lighting at my home sucks for my home office. Robert goes into and lays out a bunch of displays. You can check out the article. Mitchell will put a link on it. But Joe, you guys are recording from your house. I work from home typically 1 to 2 days a week, so I have a home set up there. What is it that constitutes or the ingredients for a just kick butt home work from home setup?
Oh boy, I'm like a lot of things, I'm opinionated on this one. I go through this back and forth because I know
Joe's opinionated about everything.
Yeah, because here's the thing: depending upon the weather, I switch back and forth. I know some people swear by the big old curved thing.
Okay,
and see
you're
everything
in Southern
at once.
California, brother. I mean, I'm sitting here in St. Louis, and we're going to get hammered this weekend.
Yeah,
Kansas City, which is 4 hours west of me, is going to host the coldest NFL game in history. What does changing weather mean to you?
It might be drizzling outside.
Okay.
Right. That will shut our city down,
Oh my God.
I'm not wrong.
You're not.
I think, to try to answer your question, I
Yeah.
think the right setup is how you can be effective,
Okay.
right? I've gone from the big old curved everything, and I can't stand them. But talk to someone else, and they'll swear by it.
Yeah.
I love the 2 side by sides, and I've got my neat frame in the middle, and I can have that for business meetings. Keep my other things on. That's where I've got my podcast set up over here, but it lets me be effective.
Yeah.
If I'm going to get excel in things, I turn this way. If I'm doing a podcast appearance like this one, I'm turning this way. If I'm on a team, a meeting with our team, and I face straight forward, right, and have that. And it's about finding what works for you. And I don't think there is a right or wrong answer, right? I mean, and it also depends upon what you do. The bigger screen isn't always better. Yet I've got 2 nice big screens that are side by side, and I love it, and they fit. So that was a very long answer to a very short question, and I don't even know I gave an answer.
I think you did. Yeah. Sean, how do you build the ultimate work from home setup for you?
I want to be comfortable. That was my first goal when I was like, okay, I'm going to work from home. So I gotta lay everything out so it's ergonomic. My chair's got to be rock solid. Joe and I are both rocking the Secret Labs.
Yes.
The free press.
Advertisement for,
I will point out, I am standing for this entire thing, and these 2 yahoos are comfortably in a chair. Go ahead.
If you're going to be sitting, all day long, this is kind of the setup that I've had for a while. The monitor straight in front of me and another monitor off to the side with the, camera, microphone, all that stuff. But I built a very similar setup for a desk at our office, and I found it was like, as you're kind of sitting throughout the day, like you're doing, Tim, eventually you just want to stand up. You got to stand up, right? Yep. And so, I know standing desks have been a thing for a while, but I got one for my office, and it is a game changer. Don't have it here, right? So you got to be comfortable, but at the same time, it's like you got to be comfortable and also kind of take care of yourself.
Well, I think that right there is it, right? Is you got to be comfortable.
Yeah, and you wonder how many people, like if I look at my wife, Amy, her setup is in our kitchen. It happens to be a little cutout nook, and that's where she works. She's got a nice comfy chair, but we don't have an extra off, right? And we tried setting up, but I annoy her because she hears me, and then I'm extra loud. And then I'll still get the text saying, please shut up, even from up here with the door closed. But you wonder how many people are still working from their dining room table, even years later, right? And are we taking that seriously? But it doesn't matter. I have a nice office.
so many jokes and so many places to go that I'm just going to shut up. Say thank you both so much for joining us. I appreciate it, Dr. Josiah Way. How do people connect with you, with HETMA, with your podcast, with your books, with whatever the hell else you're doing?
Yeah, you can find me at TD Albright on the Twitters and X. But don't follow me. Follow all the great stuff we have and that Tim has at AVNation. And then after you do that, you can then find me at Josiah Way on all the socials. HETMA_org, HETMA Higher Education Technology Management Alliance. Please find us. And of course, Higher Ed AV podcast is my podcast. And we will be at ISC. Tim, I'll see you in a couple of weeks in person. We'll be covering it. And specifically, myself and Aaron, who does your EdTech podcast, is going to be out there. And we've got a HETMA crew out there where we're going to be kind of covering it from a higher ed point of view. So I encourage you to check out all that great information.
Yeah, absolutely. Go follow them and see what they bring back from Barcelona. Sean, thank you so much, sir. Very nice to have you. How can people connect with you or the farm?
You can go to our website, www.thefarmav.com. We're on LinkedIn and all the socials. We have an Instagram. It's picking up steam. I think we have at least 100 followers, but Tim, you can make it 101 if you're not following already.
I will do that this weekend. That way that Kelly doesn't have to yell at me for that. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Very good. Thanks so much. For us, as Joe said, don't follow me because the Bears are no longer playing football. So, anyhow.
They might get Caleb Williams, and then you're going to be a real team finally.
Anyhow, we'll talk about football after this because They also need a real coach, and there's several available now. But go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program, Aaron's Higher Ed, and a whole lot more. We were also going to ISE, so go by and check out that coverage. If you are going to ISE, Integrated Systems Europe, the 30th of January through the 2nd of February. On the 30th of January, we are hosting our annual ISE Tweet Up with our friends at HD Base T and Commercial Integrators 40 Under 40 at the HD Base T stand from 4 o'clock until 6 o'clock on the 30th of January. That's 4 to 6 local time. I think it's CET, so don't come by at 6 o'clock, Eastern. So you can register for that at AVNation as well. Also, by the time this posts, we are entering the last phase of our AVNation annual Reader's Choice Awards. This is it. This is the final one. We got 2 weeks for you to tell us who is the best of the best, whether that's a new product, the best audio, or the AVNation AV Pro of the Year, which Dr. Josiah Way has been in the past. So, and I'm not. It's somewhere in his video. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, go to AVNation.tv for that. So one of Joe's projects is still up as of this recording. I have no idea whether or not it's going to make it through Monday, but as of right now, it is up there. So all that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.